What's going on, everybody? Welcome. There we go. We got Blake Lovell coming on here in just a little bit. Shout out to all you guys. Sponsors. These shows are not possible without the sponsors. Shout out to Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company. Same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes. They've got your back. Just give them a holler. Better than best results. 501-244-3667. Again, that's Direct Service Overhead Garage Door Company. Travis Ford and the boys. And then, of course, Insurance Max. Business, personal, life and health. Insurance, retirement. We shop the best rates for you. Sign up or call for free quote today, and you'll get a shot at winning a free copy of EA College Football 2.5 that drops next month. So they cover all four corners of the state. So why not call or just click, get a hold of Insurance Max, see what they can do for you. All right, we got Blake Lovell coming up. We're going to get caught up on some basketball. Much to discuss there. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. Shout out to the May Patreon supporters. Just like with sponsors, this is not possible without Patreon supporters and sponsors. Month of May winners, your cards have been sent out. In the month of June, don't forget, you got a shot at a autographed Hunter Henry or an autographed Hunter Henry Alex Collins card. If you're legendary status, you got a shot at winning either one of those two cards along with some others. All right. Here he is, Mr. Blake Lovell. How you doing, sir?
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Man, I'm digging what you're wearing right there.
Well, I thought about it. I'm like, it's a little chilly in here. I could grab any sweatshirt I have, but I'll pick the Rams for you. So
appreciate that. That's awesome, Blake. Not gonna lie, man. I gotta get me some new merch. All I have is like the hat and the helmet. You can't. I don't know if you can really see it. It's not really on camera. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like a nice hoodie for the old school Rams.
Oh man.
Logo. That's what I prefer, but I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, I had in seventh grade, I had the Isaac Bruce jersey. See, I'm a pre-greatest show on turf Ram fan. When they moved to St. Louis, I was like, I'm all in, and I just stuck with them when they went back to LA. That was hard though. It's hard to root for a West Coast team, but here we are.
You're not like me who just buys gear because I like the colors, right? Like you're not that kind of guy. So
I don't know. It's ironic because all the teams I cheer for, I love their colors. The Celtics, right. Green and white, and the Rams. I love these colors. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe not.
Well, it's always like doing what I do. I'm like, I can't buy any SEC gear. So like I have to like get creative and buy other stuff. So I'm like, I can't go out and buy a Kentucky blue, or I can't go buy a, anything like that. So I'm like,
It's a weird situation, and we'll get into Arkansas basketball again. Thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It's a weird situation because going to Razorback football practice, none of the media, they make it a point to not wear red and white.
Yeah.
They got to appear, and they are, as unbiased as humanly possible. And you'll see some new people show up with like all their hog gear on, and it's like, uh-oh, they're about to find out the hard way. They're going to get some looks.
Yeah.
But I don't hide it. Maybe I do at practice, but everyone knows I'm born and raised here. How can you not be partial to the Razorbacks? All right. Since the last time, it seems like every time there's some little update to the roster, I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to ask you to come on. We will get to Brazil. We haven't discussed that yet here on the show. We'll get to Brazil in just a second. I do have some Patreon questions. These are for our Patreon supporters. They had some questions for you. Megan wants to know, what other non-conference games do you see being announced, if any, or, big games?
I mean, I feel like that's always so hard to predict, but I think what you can do is you can go back to the way Cal built his schedule at Kentucky, right, to try to find some similarities and those kind of things. Yeah, like that's just a tough one because, I mean, there could be any of those out there, and we know. I think if I do specifically look back at that, and we were looking at this the other day, like different schedules and such, we know there's not been a ton of games announced for everyone just yet. Those will start to come, I would think, over the next couple of weeks when you start really getting kind of a more filled out schedule. But, it felt like Cal would always play, he'd play some of those teams that felt like they were a number one, number two type team in a mid-major conference, something like that, right? So, I mean, you could just go pick your list of those kind of teams, right, to see who would fit that category. But it felt like he was always loading up on those teams at home. Playing some different teams that you felt like at least had a chance to challenge for their conference title. You would get some more of those kind of big time games, which we already know there are some of those on the schedule. So I don't have a great read on that one just yet. I feel like it's still maybe a month too early to know exactly where some of these non-conference games are headed. But
Mac 1855, again, this is in Patreon chat. These are Patreon questions. What is the likelihood that Cal stays true to his word with 9 scholarship spots? And who are the names that are strong possibility that he might go after if he wants 1 to 2 more spots?
So I know he says that, but someone texted me this the other day, and they're like just trying to get information. They're like, "Is he really going to stay at 9?" And my exact response to them was, "I don't think so," because the way I look at this is, and maybe he just likes the versatility of a couple of the guys to where he's saying, I don't necessarily need what I feel like, we do depth charts, right? We look at the depth charts and we're like, okay, that guy's the clear backup for that guy and all that. It's not as important, I guess, in the positionless basketball era, but I think you still want to probably look at a roster and feel like, okay, if my number 1 at this position goes down, that is my obvious number 2 to turn to. It's not always that way because we know, again, guys can play multiple positions. And this team has multiple of those kind of guys who can do that. I mean, we laugh all the time. We're like, Caduciero, put him anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter. You can just put the guy anywhere out there, and he'll be fine. So my guess is if he were to go away from that statement and one guy just happens to pop up and Cal turns around and says, well, you know what? We said we weren't going to, but, man, this guy was too good to pass up, which I think always gives you an out just to say, hey, we weren't, but this guy's perfect for our team. You really hype him up, all that. I think you need one more guard, and I don't look, like I said, you can look at kind of what they have now, Wagner, Flan, Davis. There's a lot of minutes to go around there when you just look at kind of where those 3 guys are at. So they are going to take the bulk of those minutes, and, you've kind of got those guys, Billy Richmond, Carter Knox, they're 6'5", 6'6", but they can, they play on the wing. They can do some different things just with their size, but that would be my only thing. If he's going to add one more guy, I think it's more of a, I don't know, somebody else that just in case, the just in case edition, right? Because let's say somebody gets injured at the guard position. You're really thin there, right? And you're looking at it and saying, man, these guys were probably already going to play a lot of minutes. I mean, John L. Davis, I can't imagine he comes off the floor very much. DJ Wagner, Boogie Flan, interested to see what the dynamic is there in terms of the primary ball handling position type thing. But if he does add another, if he doesn't stick to it, I think he has to add another guard because the front court's just, my goodness, front court's loaded. So.
Yeah. They've got a lot of options, and according just to their website, they have 3 what they call guards in that position. Yeah. We know realistically the number's probably like 4, but like you said, it's positionless basketball these days. Now John Hawes asked like 15 questions. I'm not going to read all these off. I think he was trying to give me my entire show or my entire list of questions. I appreciate that. You and I have kind of already talked about the starting lineup and the rotation a little bit. He does ask what you think of that, like just get another shot since we've added Brazil into the mix, what your starting lineup might look like. And then he also wants to know what your favorite root beer is.
Oh, favorite root beer. Big cream soda guy. Like I used to love the A&W cream soda.
Cream soda is great.
That's always been a go-to for me. Starting lineup, the way we're playing like guess the starting lineup on our show right now. We're doing every week, and some of these have been way easier than others. Arkansas feels pretty easy compared to I think most teams out there in the SEC, and I think it's because you do the game where you go with the locks first, right? And to me, the locks are pretty simple. I think John L. Davis is a lock. I think Jonas Adu's a lock. I think DJ Wagner's probably a lock. Although again, I've always said I'm very, very high on Boogie Fland. I could certainly see a scenario there where maybe something like that happens. Now, the Brazil return makes things interesting because, before we would have slotted Adu Thiero into that role and not even thought twice about it. But I think if Brazil's coming back and Brazil's healthy and good to go, he's probably going to be in that lineup. And if you think about the idea of starting a Brazil and Jonas Adu together, to me, that's very exciting because, you just think about what our expectations were of those two guys going into last year. We all know how it unfolded with Arkansas and Brazil and all that, but talent-wise, you can't deny the possibilities. And so I think those three would have to be in there just based on kind of the experience that you have with all of them and just the upside that's there. But like I said, DJ Wagner, I feel like he's probably going to get that starting spot just because Cal, there's familiarity there right off the bat, and I think then it's trying to figure out what does he do from there. And I think for most people, if you had to ask right now, they would think that maybe Carter Knox slides into that sort of 3-man role. But I've said too, I'm very intrigued when I look at this, and I think, all right, if you're Arkansas and you're looking at the possibilities of the different lineups you could play, that's one: Wagner, Davis, Knox, Brazil, Adu. But if you also think of, hey, you know what? We don't want the other team to score. We are going to lock them down in every way possible. Cal's revenge tour starts on the defensive end of the floor. Wagner, Davis, Thiero, Brazil, Adu. Man, and that's the thing. I think Thiero is going to be one that's really hard to keep off the floor. Mm-hmm. But as always, we always say this, right? You don't have to be a starter to be one of the biggest contributors on the team. And I think, I'm curious to see if he starts one of the freshmen right off the bat, or does he just say, hey, we're gonna go out there and put some of these older guys in the mix and go from there. But they've got possibilities. But to me, like I said, I think there's multiple combinations to work with, and it's really just a matter of what does he want to do with Thiero, and does he feel comfortable enough putting one of the freshmen right off the bat in the starting lineup? Which again, like I said, I think most people would think that Carter Knox has a real good chance to do that. So,
well, they have a really good mix of youth, the typical, high caliber freshmen, guys like Carter Knox and Boogie Fland, who's likely, I guess, to play the 1 or the 2 spot. But then you've also got Jonas Adu and Travon Brazil, who's a junior, even though he doesn't have, quite the amount of games played under his belt you would expect for a junior because of injuries. You've also got Adu Thiero. You've got a pretty decent mix there. It's still a little bit on the younger side, not as many seniors as you would think. If you listen to the way Cal talked coming into the season, he's mentioned the losing to the 26-year-old about 15 times, and it's become a thing on my live where he's 26 years old. I really got to I got to find some new material, but don't have as many. I really thought by now they'd be loaded down with, at least a couple of more, maybe a super senior or two.
Yeah.
Again, if you look at the lineup, Wagner, sophomore, Richmond, freshman, Carter Knox, freshman, Boogie's going to be a freshman. Brazil's a junior, but to me, he still kind of feels like he's just going into his second year, It's just not as loaded down with upperclassmen as I thought it would be.
No. And at least he's got a few more than he had last year. And of course, that was the big talk, right? Is they had to get older
compared to his,
Kentucky got older. They just didn't do it with Cal. Because Kentucky may be one of the oldest teams in the country based on the roster that Mark Pope has built there. Because they're all like grad, super senior, like they're all there. And so, and that's why I think this will be interesting because, like I said, to me, it's familiarity too. And I know people brought it up. Like, there could certainly be a scenario where Cal just throws the arrow in there off the bat and says, hey, Brazil, you're going to come off the bench and be in that kind of role because I have more familiarity with Thiero coming from Kentucky, maybe the same with Wagner, and that kind of stuff. And even Big Z, right? Big Z's a sophomore. He feels like a freshman because he didn't really play a ton last year. And so I think, it is kind of it's still kind of that Cal roster where you've got some of those older guys, but you've got a lot of younger guys who still have a lot to prove. But have all the talent in the world. So,
One super senior right now on Arkansas's roster, and of course that's John L. Davis. I get corrected if I say his full name and I don't call him Nelly. I've already had one of my a guy that calls in a lot, Brim. He'll correct me. You got to call him Nelly, and I'm like, listen, and he's right. Got to respect that. But I said on another live, I said, but not everyone picks up on the nicknames. And these guys, like if you look at Arkansas football, they're secondary over the last couple of years. I mean, you had a guy that called himself Nudie. Yeah. And if I talked about Nudie, I'd have someone DM me or a friend or a family member text me, who is that? So
I'm like Ron Burgundy. I read what's on the teleprompter.
Exactly.
Like I read the name that's on the roster, and that's what I read. So you could put any name on there, and I'll read it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm Ron Burgundy.
But I agree with people. Like I think and I've said this, like one of the bold predictions we started this new long form podcast in addition to all the videos we do and everything. But one of the bold predictions I made on the Arkansas episode we had a couple weeks ago was I said I think John L. Davis / Nelly. I said I think he is, to me, a lock, as close as I want to get to saying a lock, probably to a guy that's going to be first team All SEC. I just think he's going to be tremendous, and I would fully expect him to be the leading scorer on this team. So that I would not have much of a doubt about that based on the roster as it's constructed right now.
John L's going to be. I'm so excited. I've been watching a lot of his FAU stuff, and it's just, oh my gosh,
yeah,
he really he's going to be the guy, I think, for sure. And yeah, I mean, he might even be All SEC, first team All SEC caliber player, and. I mean, that's saying a lot because this league, the talent in this league over the last several years has just been incredible. The boom has been awesome, and it comes with the better coaching pedigree that we have. We also got the SEC-ACC matchups. I think you guys have probably talked about that on your show a little bit. Was there any of these that kind of intrigued you a little bit? I know Arkansas is going down to Miami. Miami was not good last year. In fact, they were. Yeah. I think they had some injuries or something. I don't really recall, but were there any of these matchups you saw and were pretty impressed by, or anything that caught your eye?
I think that kind of tells me like the state of the ACC right now, because I looked at a lot of these and I'm like, like they're okay. They're not probably, I'm like, certainly the SEC Big 12 was better. Like I feel like they were better matchups across the board, and it's just because the Big 12 had become a better basketball conference in the ACC. But I mean, here I think it's pretty clear the headliners are the two, I guess, December 4th games. That's Alabama at Carolina, and then Auburn at Duke. I think those are obviously the two headlining games, not just because North Carolina and Duke are on the other side, but because, if you want my honest opinion right now, I think Alabama and Auburn are the clear top two teams in the SEC as it stands right now. Heading into next season, Auburn will be one of the oldest teams in the country. Obviously, a Player of the Year candidate in Broom. Got other guys back, new additions that are going to make an impact. Alabama, I mean, you probably saw the tweet I put out, what was it, yesterday or the day before? Like, they are the current betting favorite to win the national championship in college basketball next year. Not football, basketball, ahead of the two-time defending champion UConn, who just got their coach back. So if that's the case, that tells you something. So I think that's notable. But like the other matchups, like even like Arkansas at Miami, right? I'm like, yeah, I mean, Larinaga's there. He does a good job, but they've been a little up and down at times. But that should be a fun one, just I think, given the fact that, again, I think we'll see what Miami looks like. But I try to look around, and I'm even thinking, I'm saying, hey, what if there were some different matchups you could pair it with? But even those, I'm like, there's not a lot, I think, from the ACC standpoint right now that just absolutely thrills me, right? I mean, like Florida, Virginia, we just saw that last year. In some kind of tournament, I think last year they played, didn't they? And so I'm like, that's a good game, but am I just completely over the moon about it? Maybe not. Texas at NC State. I mean, NC State's coming off of, the miraculous run. Can they keep it going? We'll see. Texas should be pretty good. And so I think maybe that's one of the better games. It feels like the Wednesday, December 4th games are way better than the Tuesday games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cuse at Tennessee is a little bit intriguing.
Yeah. That's interesting. The two oranges.
Yeah.
So like you could see that. Kentucky at Clemson. Again, it's like I know Clemson just made the run they made, but that's not a matchup that I'm just completely, thrilled about, I guess. Maybe we'll see. But again, too, it all depends on what we see in the first month from some of these teams.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably, the more interesting thing, too. I would have liked to seen like a Missouri, Florida State, because you'd have the Dennis Gates, Leonard Hamilton tie-in. Gates was his former assistant there. Like, I think those things would get you a little bit more invested in these. I think Louisville, maybe you pair Louisville with someone else other than Ole Miss, because that could be intriguing just based on, new coach. Can they turn things around? You obviously wouldn't have paired Kentucky with a Louisville, but I would have been interested to see Arkansas at Louisville.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Like that would have been a matchup I would have been more, do Ole Miss at Miami, Arkansas at Louisville. That would have been one that now that I think about it, I'm like, why did they not go that route? That seems like a slam dunk to me to do Arkansas at Louisville. So,
2 first-year head coaches, Pat Kelsey, who took over at Louisville this year, versus Cal at Arkansas. Put it in, put it in Fayetteville, whatever. Either one of those arenas be a lot of fun. Yeah, but that seems like a missed opportunity.
It's just, the ACC, like I said, you'll have like a good coaching matchup, Wake Forest and A&M, Steve Forbes and Buzz, but I don't know. It's the ACC has kind of lost that mystique, I guess you'd say, basketball-wise. And so other than the top couple teams, even the teams, like I said, that just made a big run, you still kind of want to see how they build off of that. So
yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Give me your. Oh yeah, well so you already touched on it with Alabama and Auburn, but I wanted to know, now that we're on June 13th, we have a pretty good idea now what these rosters are. We're heading into summer practice. Give me your top 5 SEC rosters.
Okay, so yeah, I would say Alabama would be 1, Auburn would be 2. I think it's a tough call for 3 and 4 in my opinion. Actually, it may be a tough call 3, 4, 5, because I think I would put Tennessee in there, although I'm still a little bit hesitant on Tennessee, not as much as I was a month ago, but I'm still a little bit hesitant on them. A&M has a lot returning, so I think A&M is in there in the top 5. I have a tough time figuring out what order I would put them in. And I think probably at that point, I feel like the roster Cal's put together is good enough to put Arkansas in there. I would probably still put them a little bit on the lower end of that 5, just because Arkansas has burned me before, and so has Cal. And I'm thinking the combination together, maybe I should be a little bit more, not get too overly optimistic just yet. But I think roster-wise, if you're just looking at the talent that's there, I don't think there's any question that Arkansas is one of the top 5 talented rosters in the SEC. If you're looking for, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't say a sleeper team, but if you're looking at the teams that maybe I would put just outside of that, I think Texas has a pretty good roster. I think they're one that may catch some people by surprise. Florida, they got some good players, but I'm still curious to see how the roster comes together overall in terms of the depth. The one I would say would be the sleeper of the group would probably be Missouri. And I know that's, not going to thrill people necessarily, but they just come off of an 0-for season. Yeah. But man, I'm telling you, they have had a significant roster upgrade, and if they don't get it done this year, then there will be plenty of reasons to, go after my guy Dennis Gates. But I think their roster is completely different than it was last year. Way more depth, way more playmaking ability, and so I think Missouri is kind of a sneaky team to keep an eye on, although I would probably not put them in the top 5 talent-wise.
I kind of thought you'd have Arkansas on the higher end a little bit just because of, all those names you mentioned earlier. But it also makes sense, too, because these other rosters, people are they're overlooking just what these other schools are doing. I mean, this is not SEC basketball 2016.
You know what, Ty, it goes – I was going to say, it goes back to what we just talked about. Like we said, Cal, we're talking about the experience or lack thereof still maybe. Man, you look at the experience on some of these other teams. Like think about it. Alabama just got, 2 old guys back from a Final Four team in Sears and Nelson. Even Reitzel you could put in there, even though he didn't play a lot. Big Cliff Amore from Rutgers, who comes in as an older guy, double-double, probably averaging a double-double. And then they added 2 more guys who are upperclassmen, transfer-wise, Chris Youngblood, Houston Millett. Like, that's, 7 guys right there that are all seniors or grad transfers or whatever, super whatever, right? And like Auburn is going to start. Actually, I say that now that I look at it, I'm like, Auburn's top 7 or 8 could all be seniors or grad transfers. And so I think that's what sets those kind of teams apart. And even, if you look at a Tennessee or someone like that, A&M, like I said, has got a bunch of old guys. They're going to probably start all upperclassmen, maybe a scenario where actually they could start all seniors now that I look at it. Tennessee, same situation where they're going to start at least 4 seniors probably. Could start 5 depending on the rotation. That's the thing, is that there's just a lot of old teams in the SEC. And not to say Arkansas doesn't have some old players, but I think as we've seen, man, it's just like, who knows? Because the older teams have really taken advantage of this league in recent years. So
they have. Yeah, and speaking on Missouri, again, anytime we bring up Missouri, Arkansas fans get a little not thrilled about it, right? Rightfully so.
Should. You should be talking about them all you want right now after an 0-18 or whatever they went last year. So
yeah, they were bad, but this roster turnover is insane.
Yeah,
I mean, grabbing Mark Mitchell out of Duke. You look at the recruiting class they ended up signing, which right outside the top 10. But I mean, they got Boateng out of Little Rock. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. Peyton Marshall, the 7-footer, 300-pound 7-footer. Yeah. Out of Atlanta, Georgia. They picked up Tony Perkins out of Iowa. I mean, they built a really good, solid roster. A little bit of experience sprinkled in there. Someone had mentioned Jacob Cruz a little while back in my Discord. He actually ended up signing with Missouri. So, yeah, it's just thanks to the transfer portal in the NIL era. Roster turn, like what you did last year, who cares? It's a whole new year. It's not like it used to be before.
Yeah, everybody's spending money, right? Like that's the difference now is, and I mean that, like literally everyone is spending money. If Vanderbilt is spending money, the amount of money I'm hearing that Vanderbilt's spending, that's when you know everybody's spending money, because Vanderbilt just, is not a program or athletic department, as you know, over the years that has embraced athletics all the time. But now they have understood that the only way you're going to catch up or be level with everyone, and, you could argue Vanderbilt's probably coming off their worst academic year of sports they've had in a long, long time. Football was terrible. Baseball did not achieve the expectations they thought. Basketball was not good, coming off of what you thought was maybe a program building season the year before. Yeah. And now it's like, they're going out, and Mark Byington, money wise, he has brought in some players. I mean, he's brought in a lot of power conference transfers, which is not something you see, at Vanderbilt very often. I mean, they just brought in, they brought in AJ Hoggard from Michigan State. How many times do you see a guy in basketball transfer from Michigan State to Vanderbilt, especially a guy who's played so many valuable minutes for what was a team that had multiple NCAA tournament wins? Yeah. So when you see that, I think that's when you understand that, man, especially Texas and Oklahoma coming in, I mean, the league is spending money, and the good thing for Arkansas is that they've got a guy now at the helm who has no problem spending money when it comes to getting what he needs from the program. So
having Tyson and JB Hunt and all this money behind him certainly doesn't hurt either. Before you go, I wanted to get your take. Of course, we already kind of touched on it a little bit. Brazil being back and Arkansas getting ready for summer practice. We know they've been playing a little bit of pickup. They had their first team practice. I think it was last week. Bringing Brazil back. This was not something I thought a couple months ago was going to happen. Give Tusk Talk viewers just your thoughts on his return and what that might do for Cal.
Look, like I said earlier, even if he doesn't start, at worst here, I think you're looking at a situation where you're getting someone who could be the kind of depth in the front court that if we're ranking like our top front courts in the SEC, I mean, Arkansas is going to maybe be your choice right now as I look up and down. And I mean, Alabama's got a great example for that if you want to just lead with the one guy at Auburn with Jani Broome. But like pure numbers wise, if you're going with Brazil, Adu, Big Z, Thiero, let's say is kind of your four there, right? Which, like I said, Thiero can play pretty much anywhere except maybe the point. But the talent's there. And now you look at it a situation where we've all talked about everything that went wrong last year, all that. But we can't deny that Brazil has all the talent. that he needs to be a first-team All-SEC player. Can Cal get that out of him? Can the injuries kind of, hold off a bit and he's able to play a full season? Those are the questions you have. But like I said, I don't really see this as a move where, let's say, he's not the player you think he's going to be. Let's say, maybe it's the Arrow who gets all those minutes and Adu and Big Z are taking all the minutes in the front court. Okay, well, you still got other options there, right? So I think that's the way I look at it. To me, it's a fresh start. If he decided to come back to Arkansas after all the stuff from last year, everything, people talking about this, people talking about that, coaching change, all that. If he decided to come back to Arkansas, there's a reason. And sure, money probably plays into it. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. But this is still one where he's willing to give this a chance with Cal. Cal sees value in him from the roster standpoint, which could be a starter, could be the first guy off the bench, whatever his role is. You can't just take away the talent that this guy has. And there's not a lot of players in the SEC at his position that have the talent that he has. So my thing is, let's see how Cal uses him. How does he, factor him in? How does he want to use him in the way he wants to play? Because remember, too, we saw Cal kind of revamp his thoughts last year offensively. And you've got a big guy here who can step out and make shots, can do a lot of those things that I think Cal likes now if this is the way he's going offensively. So am I saying that Brazil is going to come out and be 20-point-per-game scorer? No. But I do think there's a situation where they have enough to, and this is what I like about the roster. Everyone has deficiencies, right? Everyone on the roster, there's something where you're saying, okay, maybe they can get a little better there. They can get a little better there. But I think you have the unit here to where you have other guys who can make up for that. You can plug and play different guys. Like we said, some guy may be just the go-to scorer. Great. But he doesn't have to be the number one defender. That can be a role for somebody else. That can be a Duthiero. That can be whoever else, right? And so I think that's what I like about this roster. So even if there are things where you look at Travon Brazil and say, man, I want him to get better there. I think even some of those things where he's not going to be perfect, no one's going to be perfect on this team, but there are other guys who can pick up the slack, and I think that's why I'm really intrigued by this rotation as a whole, and he's part of it because I can't deny the talent that he has.
Well, and his NBA scout or NBA combine numbers were pretty impressive. I mean, he was top 5 in vertical, a couple of vertical jump. Whatever, their little their testing that they do at the NBA combine tested out really high for a 6'10", 220-pound guy. Not too bad. So, I mean, and we've seen it in Arkansas too. We've seen a little bit. We're just hoping to see the rest of it. And that's kind of the thing that I guess some Hawk fans are excited for and believe that that'll happen under Cal. And then there's the other side of it who think we're just going to get what we got last year and year before that as someone who's a little bit injury prone. But I'm with you. I'm excited for Brazil. I think it's a good addition. I'm debating on whether or not I'd put him as my starter if I'm breaking down my rotation. Yep. I think he is a potential starter, but like you said, we gotta let it play itself out, and we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Because I think we're gonna find out a lot in the first and even just the month of November. We're going to find out a lot, I think, even though we don't have that schedule fleshed out yet. Cal's going to flirt around with the rotation, and hopefully it's not a Musselman situation where you're waiting until mid-conference to know what that rotation looks like. Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, sir, thank you so much for stopping by. I know you got to go. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Hey, always enjoy the conversation. Appreciate all you guys. Great questions and comments. And, yeah, it's always a fun time of year, and it's like it's June, right? We're not even a football season, but with the way the transfer portal works now, like there is just so much to talk about, and especially this offseason was unlike any other, it feels like, for Arkansas basketball, and
it's crazy.
Time, so plenty to discuss.
It's crazy, but it's good for us, good for business. It's fun.
That's right. Hey, I appreciate it, Ty. Thanks, man.
Take it easy, Blake. All right, that was Blake Lovell, Southeastern 14. You guys know we have him on. It's up to this point now where he's on about once a month or so. I'm sure during the closer we get to basketball season, we'll have him on a lot more. We got a little bit more we're gonna discuss, but let me give a shout out again to our sponsors who help make this possible. Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, same day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes. Give them a call today at 501-244-3667. That's free estimates. Just give them a call. And then Insurance Max, business, personal, life and health insurance, retirement. We shop the best rates for you, and they cover all four corners of our gorgeous natural state. Sign up or call for a free quote and get a shot at winning EA College Football 25 that drops next month. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to fire away. Big Z is an NBA player. I think Leslie's on a conversation. I'm kind of catching up on the middle of your conversation here, but yeah, I think Big Z could be awesome. I'm really excited for Big Z. Yeah, he brought up Missouri last time, and some folks, everyone loves to point out that they were bad last year. There's no hiding how bad Mizzou was. But again, the point being, yeah, they were bad. And whatever you think of Gates, whatever you think of Mizzou as a program, there's no doubt they've attracted some great talent. I mean, they signed 4 4-stars, and they signed a pretty solid, somewhat lengthy point guard in T.O. Barrett out of Branson, Missouri, just across the border here. Up here in Northwest Arkansas. Trent Burns, Marcus Allen. Burns is the 7'3", 210-pound. They signed 2 7-footers in this class just out of high school, not to mention getting Mark Mitchell. But the point being, Mark Mitchell out of Duke, the point being that every year's different. Arkansas can attest to that. We know what Muss did here every year. He just wiped that roster clean, and you had to kind of hope and pray, especially at the very beginning when all this was going on. Oh, boy, we're having to hit the reset button. I don't know how good we're going to be. And then we saw that class build, and we had a pretty good idea of what that class would become. And then they went on to an Elite Eight, and then another Elite Eight, and then a Sweet 16. And then last year happened. So you just don't really know. But I liked his take on the rosters, top 5 rosters. I would put Arkansas. I think it's a top 3 SEC roster. And Auburn is up there with the experience. Alabama, I know, again, that was something that was said last time he was on, and someone said Alabama was overrated. I just got to disagree. I mean, the SEC, the pedigree of talent in this conference now is unlike anything we've seen. I mean, it's ridiculous, the amount of lottery pick projections and first rounders and guys just outside the first round. The SEC is as active as it's ever been in college basketball, where I think football's kind of taken a step back over the last several years. I think a lot of that's because of the transfer portal. Some of the rules that are set up in place where these kids can't jump from SEC to SEC school to SEC school in the spring portal. You can't jump from SEC to SEC. But with basketball, it's taken 2 or 3 clicks forward since the portal. So basketball's benefiting, baseball's benefited. Football has benefited. I'm not saying that it hasn't, just not to the degree that the other 2 sports have. So every year's a reset. We don't know what we don't know until we know, right? Until we're probably in mid-January. We had no idea those runs that Arkansas would go on, the back-to-back Elite Eights and the Sweet 16. We didn't really know, especially some of those that got choppy there in January. We weren't really sure that team was going to be good enough. And then last year, we thought that was a Final Four team. They didn't even make the damn playoffs. Sorry. I've been watching my Celtics dominate the Mavs in the NBA in the finals. Arkansas didn't even make the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, so many questions. And the portal has affected basketball more than any sport. And the SEC has benefited. So I wouldn't overlook Missouri. I don't know that I would say they're a lock as a tournament team, but I know I would put Alabama as a lock. I'd put Auburn as a lock. Tennessee's probably going to be a lock. And then I think, you guys know what I think about this Arkansas roster. I think it's pretty special. Scroll up here, get caught up. I have no idea what TB's major is. I don't know. No clue. We better win one game by 40+, says Heartbroken Hog. Honcho says Missouri sucks. Well, anymore, again, in basketball, you have to rag on the coach, really, if he can't get it done in the portal and if you don't get results on the floor. Dan Tanner says, I would love to play USC. Wouldn't that be fun? In March, go play USC. That would be a lot of fun. What if it was to advance to the Final Four and you're up against Musselman and USC? That'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, all right. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Give you guys some updates. So I've got a Patreon video I'm working on right now for Patreon supporters. We got some big recruiting should be happening soon. So I'm gonna get that video done hopefully today, if not maybe sometime this weekend, if it's not too late. Friday night, I'm gonna be with the Don't Read the Comments podcast. We're gonna do a schedule breakdown. And after saying I wouldn't do it all off season, I'm gonna actually give you guys I still think it's a too early prediction because it's pre-fall camp. I'm going to give you my what I would call kind of a first glance, quick glance wins and losses. We're going to break down all these, well, not every single game, but we're going to discuss each of these games in terms of whether or not we think Arkansas wins or loses. You might be a little bit surprised. So that'll be tomorrow night. We're hoping to be live by 7 p.m. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you've tapped that notification bell. That way, you know, as soon as I go live, you get a notification. But yeah, as you guys know, they did release the times. We knew about UAPB being 6:30, Oklahoma State 11 a.m., UAB 3:15. What we found out, I think this was earlier, was it this last weekend when they released the times or earlier in the week? Arkansas is going to play Auburn at 2:30 or 7 p.m. Texas A&M will be the afternoon game, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. So I guess that's kind of a flex spot. I don't really know why it says 2:30 to 3:30. Tennessee, 2:30 or the 7 p.m. That game's in Fayetteville. Would love to see that one under the lights. LSU is going to be a nighttime game, 5 or 7 p.m. Mississippi State will be an 11 a.m. or noon game. Ole Miss, 11 a.m. or noon. Texas is an 11 a.m. game on ABC or ESPN. That is a little bit surprising, but not really. We know when Arkansas and Texas play under the lights, it could be special, but unfortunately, Arkansas's, you know, I mean, they are what they are right now, right? And so the networks know this, and they put them at that 11 a.m. slot. Although there's a debate that the 11 a.m. slot is now one of the best spots to have. So I don't know. Louisiana Tech is still TBA, but that one, you know, is being played in Fayetteville. And then Missouri will be, I don't know, it says afternoon, 2:30, 3:30. So it won't be a late game, but it won't be an early game. So there you have it. All right. Yo, good morning, Ty. What's up, Ryan? Hope you're doing well. Heartbroken Hog was talking about, all right, you're talking about the UAPB game. I hear you. Do you think Cal should get KK Robinson back or let him back? I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know. Maybe you like what he offers. Most people do anyways. That's a good question. I mean, why not? You could certainly do worse. And Blake Lovell, you could hear a little bit of skepticism that he's going to keep that 9-man roster of prime NIL roster spots, right? You just never know with Cal. So what's the debate for the 11 a.m. slot? That it's a better slot, Mike. I thought I said that. Did I not say that? I thought I did. It's a better slot. I heard the Morning Rush guys talking about that. Chuck Barrett, Tommy Kraft, and Ty Richardson. Ty with an E, by the way. They were talking about that. And Tommy Kraft brought up, and Chuck agreed with him, that the 11 a.m. spot has now become, it doesn't have the same reputation that it once did. I don't know. Call into the Morning Rush or text those guys and ask them. Maybe they can go into more detail about that. But pretty sure that's where I heard that. They think the 11 a.m. slot is no longer the poo spot, you know, the crappy team spot. It's becoming, I guess, where some of the better games are over the years. I don't know. But I agree. I think typically the 11 a.m. games from a fan's perspective suck. And I agree with that. Man, who the hell wants to get up? Especially if you're going to the game. You have to get up at like 8 o'clock, depending on where you're at. If you're in Fayetteville and what hotel you're at, if you're staying in Bentonville or Rogers, and then you got to fight traffic. So you're going to have to leave. I don't know. I mean, some people have told me they get up as early as 7 o'clock, and there are people who found a hotel in Springdale for an 11 a.m. game. That sucks, man. No, thank you. No, thank you. We should be playing them at 6:30. Are you talking about Texas? Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun under the lights. But these networks, it's their call. So it is what it is. Don't forget online Madden. We've got that going on right now. Madden 2-4. It's never too late to join. We're coming up. We're past the halfway point of our season. I'm pretty sure someone may have accidentally advanced the week, thinking he was playing his offline Ram Dynasty, not his online Ram Dynasty. That wasn't me. Well, I'm not guilty of that. But we will be transitioning once EA College Football 2.5 comes out. We'll be transitioning over to that on July 19th, and we'll start a new cycle. The old cycle will end, or this current cycle will end on July 18th, and we'll get ready for EA College Football 2.5 online. Really excited for it. Okay, that is it. I appreciate you guys. Make sure on your way out, like, share. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and make sure you tap the notification bell as well. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7-ish p.m. as myself, Tim Neal, Travis Ford from the Don't Read the Comments podcast. We'll talk about the schedule, the wins and losses, and some other stuff. I'm sure we'll kind of go all over the place, but it'll be a lot of fun as it always is. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Try your best to behave yourselves. Or not, whatever.